call the roll?
Yeah,
let's
Yeah,
call it.
I can.
Do it.
He is
We have one
checked out.
Yeah.
Do we need to go?
Counselor Beetzel.
Here.
Counselor Smallwood, she's excused absent.
Yeah.
Counselor Hamlin.
Present.
Counselor Lee.
Here.
Counselor Exeter.
I'm here.
Counselor Schultz.
Here.
Mayor Polanyi.
Here. And then Counselor Smallwood is out for the work session as well as council is an excused absence tonight. So we're going to go through and do our agenda review here, and then we put some time for our council here to talk about the community campus. And, you know, obviously we had a lot of discussions about that over the last couple of weeks of the aquatic center swimming pool side of that, but I thought it was important with some of those decisions kind of not made, but made to a certain degree for short term, allow us to really have a broader conversation about the community campus as a whole and some of the directions we want to go there, outcomes, and really give ourselves some more time to have kind of give that campus project more of its due justice, what it deserves. Pretty light agenda for tonight. And so I'll just kind of go through it. One is any changes to the consent agenda? Okay. The next topic is the Bluff Road Rehabilitation Project.
I had a question about that.
Yeah.
What level of income or what level of expense do we have to be at to do the contractors board versus just the city council approval?
Oh, that was a good question. I didn't know there was a limit for a contractor's board. Do you guys wear a different hat for that?
Yeah, you call people together as a contractors board, but it's still the council, and they make a decision for construction projects, but I don't know what the limits are.
We've never
You
done
guys
that.
don't do that?
We've never done that in the past.
I think the council just wears that hat as the contracting board all the time.
Yeah, I thought the state law.
No?
No.
They did, it's a new one for us.
Yeah, I mean, we've had David here lots of times and
No, yeah.
never
Seen
in my
that.
12, 13 years.
I think you're just de facto the contracting board body.
So it looked like we've worked with this company in the past, and they were the low bidder, and state law and everything kind of, not that it forces our hand, but it's kind of a straightforward deal, right?
Yeah, it was responsive and bid, and yeah, we've worked with this company before, and I didn't see our engineer's estimate in this, but we have the funds to do it. Nice little road project this summer.
There's no sidewalk involved. I think we
No.
talked about, okay.
And then also on the consensus, Clackamas County Community Development Block Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any questions on that for anybody? Or just pass those through. Okay. And then we have a Arbor Week proclamation. Assuming there's no problems with that. Okay.
So are you gonna read that? Or are you gonna?
I think the council president might read that.
I just wanna make sure, I'm just
I'll say all the whereases for you.
No, that's fine, I just wanted to,
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
I didn't know if you were gonna be up there or not. So.
I am, yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll move on to our planning commission appointment. How are we gonna go through that tonight? We have a recommendation from the committee that we put together, which was comprised of the planning commission chair, myself, Councilors Exner, and Pietzel. Were we looking kind of for a committee report and then a vote? Is he gonna be here?
He'll probably be here. I mean, you guys can report on, I don't know what was said in your interview and all that, so if you guys want to talk about it, you can. Or you can just say, you guys met, you interviewed, you found him to be the best candidate, and we recommend council to appoint Christopher Mayton, I think is his name.
Yeah, I guess the only
for
thing
planning
that I
commission.
would bring up for these purposes would be that part of that conversation is that just like with all the committees and boards we're looking at is, a lot of the times people have fulfilled their term and then they just kind of go up and they get reappointed and they fulfill their term. And as people come to the end of their terms, we're looking to broaden out the scope and ask for multiple people to interview, and because that these interviews and stuff as a council. So the idea being is that this gentleman in front of us tonight, I think he has like 6 months left on
His term ends December 31st.
And we let him know right at the very beginning is when this is done, we're gonna take it, nothing against you, but we're gonna take it back out and receive some interviews and stuff to do again, and we're gonna do that with every commissioner and everybody else, just so that we're at least kind of continually updating stuff for our plans.
Is that the person who had been an advisory member?
No.
No, so
What happened to that person?
so that person moved out of Sandy, and so there was it really kind of came down to 2 applicants.
Mhm.
And one of the both were very good people and citizens. I would just say that one of the applicants was probably not quite sure what role she wanted to play in the city quite yet. And we need to just whenever we have those people, we want to point them in the direction we want them involved.
Right.
But kind of what the consensus was is maybe planning commission wasn't the best step into the ring.
But to your point, the person that had the experience there a little bit was had just recently had told us the night before or the day
Yeah,
or
some
that they
family
were
stuff came up.
moving out of town.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
So
Kind of short notice.
wasn't gonna
Yeah.
be insane anymore. So
All right, and then that's it. Then we'll do our city managers report and city councilor reports. Of course, yeah, they're on there, and then we'll adjourn. So going to the community campus topic for tonight's work session is, do we have pins that work? up
Yep,
there?
there's pins that work, so Jordan wants to write.
So he wants to write,
Right.
not that we have to write. So this is why I'm here tonight. We don't have a real full meeting here, but I wanted to give due justice to the community center. So this is, Jeremy, I know, always gets emotional about this. I'll try to not get too emotional about it. But, this campus project is what's going to have my kids make the decision to live in Sandy and my grandkids to want to live here, right? And as I look around, I see grandkids and we all have kids and different, involvement in the community. And so this is I don't know if there's anything we're going to do on council, saving Jeremy and his high-speed internet and how that transforms what we get in deliverability here in the community. I don't know if there's anything else we'll do in our time on council that will be as impactful and long-term as what we do at the community campus. So with that, I thought just to kind of kick it off, these conversations, is one is, we have this mega project that was put in front of us through OPSIS that, while phased, had a pretty expensive price tag to it. And we're kind of at a point where we have all options on the table, save the fact that we are going to have an aquatic center and swimming pool is going to be part of this overall vision. I think we're all committed to doing that. We've said that we're committed to doing that. So with that, we own 40 acres of beautiful property just adjacent to our downtown core. And there's ball fields in different elevations there. The Sandy River runs through a portion of it. You hear these wonderful rumors of an old mountain bike trail that goes, master plan that encompasses it, some of which is the old Barlow Road on the Oregon Trail that can be part of it. So it's a very marketable piece of land that we can do for our future. There's been past councils and stuff that have talked about doing a community center, and I've had conversations offline where it sounds like these community centers can come in and kind of create a catalyst, thank you, project for everything else. I think as we go into this discussion, though, we need to think, one is what it means for the acres of property, what it means for the grade school that's next to it, and does the grade school and that property come into play with anything else we're trying to do. And then Pleasant Street as a whole, right? We've rezoned it all commercial. And as that property at Pleasant Street kind of changes and goes in here into the future, what does Pleasant Street start to look like, and how does that interact and encompass the community campus, and what can the community campus do to kind of ignite to be a catalyst for everything great on the Pleasant Street and stuff? And So with that, I thought maybe we can even throw up some ideas, like what do we want our, like 20 years from now, 25, 30 years from now, what do we want, like just the takeaways, the value assets that we're gonna get as a community from the community campus? I'm just looking to start a brainstorming session on that.
I think that's also important if we're going to go out for a park district board,
Yeah.
that we have some semblance of a plan.
That's right. Yeah. So what do we think? Like, I think one is it helps us grow off of a main street core that's bisected by a state highway, right? So we develop more of a walkable kind of community center would be a takeaway that we want from this campus, right?
One of the things, I'm just sitting here listening to you talk and thinking to myself how we talked about this with the previous council. A lot of the words you just put out there are the words that we used when we said, let's buy this piece of property. This property in 20, who knows what number of years, pick your 20 if you want, or 30, would be, we would look back in no period of time and say, that's one of the best decisions we ever made. It has the potential for senior center, enlarge it so that one we have currently is kind of at the maximum right now and it needs to be moved open. Gives us an opportunity, potential for having something for our youth, not just the pool, but the pool is crucial, I think, but things that are for our youth to be able to do during the summer and the winter time. And then just a place for our people to meet and have a chance to do themes and parties and families, sports, all the things that make a community drawn together. And this is, to me, is one of those things, when I first heard about this, I thought, I'm raising my hand. This is the thing I want to see us do. And I'm a little frustrated, so I won't want to finish it on a frustration point, but I'm a little frustrated in that when it first came up, we were talking a fairly small number of dollars. And here now we have this plan that kind of overwhelms me. Kind of makes me think, there's no way I can spend $65 million to make this thing happen. Where would we come up with that? On the other hand, I think in the long-term process, this is that potential piece of property that has the ability to do so many things for the community. And not just for the community, but for making Pleasant Street an active commercial piece of ground. All that sort of stuff makes it a catalyst for a whole bunch of different things. I see it being very impactful in our city. I just think that's a frustration and a real possibility, I think I see it as.
I think, what are your hopes and dreams?
I think I agree with you there. You know, I saw the OPSIS plan, and it's like kind of one of those things where, you know, when you watch those home shows and they show you like $1 million house, and you're like, yeah, I like that. You know what I mean? And, but I don't know if that plan in its entirety is the right one for us right now. And I'm not convinced that it is, but it's obviously it's gorgeous. I think I want to see a very multi-generational is the word that I think of a lot, is because we have a very multi-generational community, and I want to see it really meet needs of all of us, you know. Like, we could do stuff for the tiny kids up to seniors, and just somewhere where we can actually all come together as a community, with amenities that work for each group, but still all together and in a cohesive way, I guess.
Maybe stage it, bite it off in pieces, not look at it like a $50,000 or $50 million project, but segment it so that if we have a park board, we can pay for part of it from time to time.
Do we feel like we need to do it all ourselves, you know, and should we divvy it off into some different public-private partnerships? You know, the neat thing is we control the future of this property, and so if we went out into some kind of RFP, you know, deal for some kind of, or maybe we handle a certain part of the property where we're doing the pool and the aquatic center and some of the parkland, but maybe it works nicely with something that might be interesting to the private sector where they come in and take part of it. You know, I don't know if we need to get there all ourselves either, though. Maybe we can. Looking for thoughts.
So, you know, as we look at this property, you know, the pool, whether you had the pool or not, the property was the gym in the, not the gym as in the workout facility, but
The jam.
stone,
Yeah.
was the, you know, the great piece of property right in our downtown area that's not too far off of our main street. Our main street here is, we looked at Pleasant Street in zone commercial, and we really wanted to vitalize that and kind of move Main Street activities over there for some of those activities we have, because it wasn't on a Highway 26, and be livability, and walkability, and community there. We looked at, hey, there isn't another piece of property that size in our community to be able to bring civic things together. So I look at it as a civic place, right? The cornerstone, the future cornerstone of our civic activities, and that includes City Hall. I mean, we've outgrown this, as you will remember. Just a couple weeks ago, we packed this place out, and there's other activities we could be having here if the facility was a little bigger, right? It was built back in the late '60s or whatever, this building, and our population has grown from, I have no idea what it was in the '60s, but you know, I know it's just, you know, doubled in the last 10, 15 years in size of 11,000, but also the staff in the building. So this building's not gonna go away, obviously, but it could be purposed for something else within inside the city. But those civic activities, along with the community center and activities, you know, like Bethany was saying, could be placed there. We know that the library outgrew the library, you know, almost right at the very beginning of opening it up, right? And, you know, we hindsight's always 20/20, right? And so coming forward, I agree that, you know, the master plan was a big, expansive thing. But in some ways, not to defend the master plan, but to realize that you need a master plan to build towards something. So whatever you're gonna have, it should be big and encompassing the whole project, and not just kind of leave it out there. You want it to be big, but then have it in stages that, okay, which stages do we prioritize? What do we want to see? Do we want to see this, or do we want to see that? One of the things that we talked about as a council for many years, long time ago, but going back, was these activities that could, you know, when you talk about public-private partnership stuff, is, you know, if we were to build a building like City Hall or building there, could we rent space out inside that building? So, you know, City Hall may be taking pieces of it, but maybe you had an office sharing program that
Or
would.
classrooms that maybe a local community college might wanna use
Yeah,
for
we don't-
teaching classes.
Yeah, I didn't want to promote any particular, you know.
Maybe they wanna help finance it.
But, you know, we also have the library, you know, those type of things, you know, that we could intertwine into that. And so, you know, you had some people paying rent for some of that space, like the community college or other activities
School district.
may come in, yeah. But you still have that, the what comes first, you know, the chicken or the egg piece of it. You've gotta be able to do it. But I think the master plan, whatever that is, should look with maybe some direction with those possibilities. And so I wasn't seeing that in that master plan that was brought to us, was the ability to do that with inside that building. I would like to see several of the agencies come under one roof for some efficiencies for City Hall, the community, under the community campus, and Parks and Rec and that type of thing, because I think there's some efficiencies in the building, as we've seen in some other communities that have redone those things.
Well, so that's where I wanted to kind of go from too. One is, I keep saying, we need, for a variety of reasons, for Pleasant Street to kind of go. One is we're becoming less and less livable with our downtown, with the highway running down the middle of it. It will alleviate some of that with having other thoroughways, you know, through town. Tourism dollars, right? What we're trying to, just as an overall brand and stuff of Sandy, trying to capture some of that, giving, providing the tourists what they want during their day and their stay to Pleasant Street gives us that. So what could be the project that starts that? And I wanted to jump off what Jeremy mentioned, which was other communities. You know, we're not the first community to be at this point. There's, you know, Redmond and some other ones. I mean, I think it'd be interesting for us to go out and see what some of these other communities have done, you know, when they've had an opportunity like this and what they brought in or recruited, that kind of ignited everything else. My worry, you know, the community fitness center thing, you know, I've said I've had a couple concerns. One is, unlike the pool, I do believe a community fitness center does compete with local business. Now, that's my personal. Other people can have their own takes on that, and that's fine. The other is, and I told Councilor Peetzel this, I was like, does it, like, a new city hall or a new, like, public building, does that really, like, instigate, like, everything we want to do to City Hall, I mean, to Pleasant Street? Is that really gonna, like, make it what pops? And I don't know, even know how we fund that with the voter appetite or something like that, because I don't want to hang a noose around the swimming pool project where it can't succeed and be successful because that's tied to it this City Hall thing that might be unpopular for voters. So, you know, what could that, maybe we just go and tour some other communities and see what other communities are doing too.
Let me suggest, I wasn't suggesting that we build community, new city hall.
Right, sorry, I didn't mean to put that in your mouth.
Putting that out to a vote or anything like that. I was mentioning that those don't pass anywhere. No one
Right.
gets a new district office or a city hall or, you know, those types of things. So we'd have to find funding outside of that, I believe, to make it successful.
Yeah.
So I think,
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I get super frustrated with this conversation because I feel like as having been a part of council for a number of years, I think the three of you weren't here when the purchase happened. And I think all the information leading up to that point, I think we got led to water and then realized that the water's frozen and we can't drink it. And so I think, like, I won't say I feel duped, but I feel like the information sharing leading up to that point felt as if we were going down the right path and the purchase of property was the right path. And I mean, just everything seemed like it was happening. And then all of a sudden the first OPSIS meeting and then kind of realizing like, whoa, this thing's way bigger. It's going to cost more. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to do this. But I think one of the things that hasn't really faded for me is even the process through OPSIS and the master plan that they've presented of that property, I think aligns with a lot of what we've been talking about with our constituents, what we've been getting feedback on as well too. I think it was an all-encompassing, and I think there's strategies that we might look at to partner with private, but I think also too the phasing of the project and figuring out a phasing. Like, I mean, to bite off the $20 million first piece may not be the wisest thing. I mean, I think for me at least, I'm looking at a lot of the outdoor stuff. I was just down in Gresham a couple weeks ago at their Main Street park. That thing was bustling. I mean, there was tons of people throughout that park, and they've got a playground area, they've got dog parks, they've got baseball fields, they've got I think it's a Chinese garden in there as well too. I mean, they've got some really cool stuff. The bike path's right next to it as well too. And I think there's some value added for the community that actually isn't the $60 million price tag. And I think some of that is also letting people see, like, if we're gonna charge you more for something, if we're gonna take more of your tax dollars, people are gonna want something to show for it. And the wastewater treatment plant is not gonna produce that. And so we're gonna hit them with a bigger bill. And so I think we do have to have some things to show for that we're not gonna completely lose our tails on as well too. But for me at least, I mean, I shared my feelings through the process of getting here. I sat next to Lois when Lois said $1 for the property and was very, very content in saying that. I don't feel that way. I do think that we did give a nice hand to the school district to help remodel their old high school. At the same time too, like I do feel that there is opportunity with that property to fulfill some of what we've already been talking to our community about. I mean, we've done a lot of sessions, we've done a lot of feedback sessions, and I think we haven't strayed away from, hey, we're gonna take a total pivot and go a different direction with this, because I'd be cautious to jump down that road too far. I'm thinking like over in Bend, the Les Schwab Amphitheater. I don't know who owns the property, but Les Schwab's sponsoring that thing. And I don't know if it's actually generating any revenue or not. League of Oregon Cities, if you go to it, you're in a town and there's tours that you can go on in that town. And I know you and I think you went on it as well too, in Redmond. and actually got to see their whole revitalization process downtown as well too. But I think the compounding issue really is, I don't think they were talking about having to redo wastewater treatment facility at the same time. And so it's like, we're kinda, at that point, it is the home show, and it's kinda like, oh yeah, you got dry rot through your entire house, but here's what it could look like. It's gonna cost you $500,000 to fix this, another $1 million to do this. And so we're in kind of a crappy situation, right, no pun intended, with that, which I think for me at least just kind of says, what could we do for less expensive to have less of an impact financially on our community, potentially bring in some dollars from some other resources to do some of the outdoor stuff, and then later be able to do something more with the buildings and facilities.
I'd really like to take a tour of the Ben Park and Rec District and the Madras facility, like, you know, one long day or something.
I'd even throw out, I mean, Southern Oregon has a number of parks down there as well too, that they've done some substantial, I mean, to the point where it's like a water park almost. And it's like free, you park and you go use it, you don't pay anything for it. And I'm sure that it costs an arm and a leg to run, but it's filled with people. And there probably aren't many people that are like, this thing's a bad idea and we should never pay a penny for it,
So
so.
do they have a park district?
I don't know, yeah, that's in Central Point on that one.
I think it goes back to that master plan. We can come up with a master plan so that the things that we do and decide to do first versus later, you aren't tearing something down in 10 or 20 years because you want to build something on top of it.
Well,
Structure, so lay out the property.
And I think that's why, I'll come on to you, I think that's why it needs to be laid out in a district too, though. Because it is going to encompass a lot of parks type activities and stuff in it. And rather than just, you know, build something and then not have the funds to maintain it in the long run, you know, we need some of the consistency that I think a district and leadership, that a district would provide. Carl?
A couple things. One is I really like the idea what John was throwing out there about working on maybe the cheaper of the probable cost projects and possibility of getting something for the folks out there right away. The thing I don't know if this is an issue or not, but I think I'd like to have this at least thought through is if we were to go something like that, call it the cheap route, the landscaping route. And then that is viable, but let's say it takes most of our money, that in the pool, and we end up with, how in the world are we gonna do the rest of the work? We've got lots of buildings, we've got things that have a lot of tear down expenses as well as put back up. I would like to make sure we don't get ourselves in the boat of saying, okay, here's what we've done so far, but we're stuck, we can't move to the next step. And maybe there's an easy solution, I don't know, but that is one of the things I think about when I do that. I love the idea of giving people what they are gonna be charged for. Second issue is I think our parks and recreation district plan needs to be thought out enough that we don't just get ourselves in a mode where we take the easy solution, or maybe that's the way to do that, but I wonder if we shouldn't be thinking about a little bit bigger picture, maybe a more defined picture, a thing that will get people excited about stuff. I believe that the pool would go through fairly well once we get the word out there, but maybe it's more than the pool. Maybe we want to put some stuff in there for our other parks. Again, I think about the operational side of the world. We just got to make sure that's covered some way, especially with the other expenses going down. It's not just the sewer plant, although the sewer plant puts a lot of concern for me in my head, but there's police, we've got downtown stuff, we've got other people. We'd love to be able to put a PR person on board, but I keep hearing the city manager say they don't have enough money to take care of the other folks. We have a lot of other things that we love to be able to do that are crucial.
Yeah, true.
So I think that we need to remember also there's different pots of money for different things.
Mhm.
So some of those can't be used for this over here and that for over here. And so I think there is some compartmentalizing of some of the funding and how we go out for some of those things. And I think that's also why we prioritize some of the plans of what we're going to do, and then we can state those things and come up with those priorities and go towards those, so.
But you think about what families go and do, right? They go and they recreate outdoor, and then you grab some lunch to go eat, and we could create an overall experience where, maybe just because I've had people reach out to me local entrepreneurs that are like, hey, I'd love to run like an amphitheater back there. So just because we have an amphitheater doesn't always mean that we have to, as a public entity, run and operate it. Maybe we do, that's fine, but it doesn't mean we have to. Or if we have our public lands back there with parks and trails and fields and courts and swimming pool, maybe there's a plot of land there that we want to divide off of there and sell to a restaurant, brewery, or something where we're developing kind of this Pleasant Street, all, multi-generational, activity center for people to do.
Sounds
We own
like
a
a
lot
strip
of-
mall to me.
Oh, yeah.
Don't say those words.
We own all, this is not a time for public comment. So we own 40 acres of property, so we can do whatever we want.
I've been looking at a little bit. I grew up in Lebanon, and they faced a similar thing with their pool, and I was trying to talk with them about it, but I haven't heard back yet. But it just seems like there's more of just an aquatic district, and they have some. I don't know. We need to agree that we need to get a plan out that's very cohesive and attractive to make sure that, because they were able to fund as an aquatic district, but we want a little more than that. So how are we going to make it? How are we going to pass it as a whole package? I guess.
I know the last time we went out for a Parks District bond, almost 20 years ago or so, it failed.
Right.
But there was a lot of, in the community, this wasn't even talking about a pool, that, hey, we were trying to do like the school district wide, or, it's way out there. And I think it's been brought up before, but people up in Welch's don't want to pay for something in Sandy, or.
But
They sure want to use it, because I sure saw an interview where someone had to drive an hour each way to Mount Hood Aquatic Center, which means they didn't live in Sandy.
But when it comes to parks, though, and like the sports fields and those type of things that were being presented, well, what about the piece of land in a soccer field, further, if that was part of their district, up in Welch's or out in Boring, and so the idea, and I think there's a lot of animosity against, the money would be coming to the city itself to do parks internally to that, so that was just a feeling that was out there that we had heard out on the street. I think there was some legitimacy to their feelings there.
It sort of did sound a little bit like if the aquatic center were the focus, that some of these folks feel like that would be maybe more on board with it, but I don't know how.
Well, that's the thing. That's why we've got to develop this overall vision that we can, sell to the community and that they can envision on why they would want to vote for this thing.
That's why I'd like to go and talk with someone who's put together the park district board, because in band that includes buildings, tennis courts, all kinds of things, not just the pool.
Right. What are some of your thoughts, George?
Well, I think a couple of the key words that I've heard is prioritize, and then the question of funding too. And how they're related. I get the impression that right now, as I said, the aquatic center of the pool is a priority or the priority, which, if you look at what available resources we have, pretty much urban renewal, and that's about it. That can quickly take that money, and so park improvements, yes, are probably less costly than an 80,000 square foot building, even phased, but to do it right and to do a nice park there, even with looking for partners and things like that, will take some funds, and so that $11 million bond that we can issue in another year or two will quickly go, the pool and maybe some park improvements, whatever. But I kind of thought that was where we started. But it's a good conversation to hear. Is affirming that vision that has been worked on since the school district approached the city. Is what is this campus going to be? And there's a whole list of multiple phased improvements, and a lot of them are recreational based amenities, and getting this council to basically confirm or change that vision of a facility or a property that is kind of a community center, but has, you know, multi-generational amenities like meeting spaces and rental spaces for events. And I think, you know, the third phase included, you know, maybe even weddings and stuff happening there and stuff like that. I think there's probably a decision tree that we need to build for the council to get through this, because some of them lead into others. You know, are we going to go to the voters with a Parks and Recreation district versus an aquatic district is a huge question.
So,
and very different.
So not to interrupt, so that's always, and Carrie and I were talking about this before the meeting, so my concern has always been, in regards to the pool, is one is like, we all know we want the pool, and we want to develop a path forward for a pool. But, is the pool there at its current location? Like, is that the proper spot for it? Maybe it is, I don't know. But I would hate to take that, I feel like a lot of our discussion over the last couple of weeks was putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. Like, you know, what do we want there, just adjacent to our downtown core? And does that vision incorporate at that location the swimming pool aquatic center, yes or no? And like, how does that all flow together? And if it doesn't, that's fine. Where's our alternative spot that we're gonna put the pool, right? And how does that path come forward? But like, what's our vision for that property? Does that property encompass a swimming pool?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a little background history and why, because we looked at saying, hey, should we put a pool somewhere else in the city? And we're going back through it, and we came back to funding and going, well, to do that, where are we gonna find the money to say, build said pool somewhere else? And so we were looking with inside the urban renewal district to use urban renewal money to build that facility new, because we always had the intention until Opsis reported that, oh, you know, there's enough life in this container to be able to use it continuous or go forward with it, than to tear it down and build a new one. So the idea was to build a new one before their report, but we looked at other places inside the urban renewal district to be able to use the urban renewal funds. We found property outside of that, but then we couldn't use those funds, and so we would have to find another funding mechanism if we were going to go outside that space. You know, some of the spaces were like across from the new high school where the district owns that. You know, if that was available to build a pool there, but that was outside the urban renewal district.
Oh, it is.
Probably pay rent to use it there too. So I guess for me, Stan, and Jordan as well too, I mean, we ripped the Band-Aid off really 2 weeks ago around the pool. I mean, and my intent in wanting to extend it was representing constituents that are wanting the pool to stay open. I told none of them that I'd be able to keep the pool open forever. It's going to close. But the hope was to at least make it through the summer. Priorities have shifted. The pool's gonna close down. We're gonna find that people that needed that as a resource are gonna find alternative resources. There'll be people that will be frustrated with us forever about the pool. We'll hear stories. Our grandchildren will hear stories about the pool and Stan shut the pool down. I'm just kidding. But I think the reality is, for me, priorities shift. The pool is not my top priority. I think that we need something to show for what our community is investing into. And so I think whatever produces something the community can see and experience and have that opportunity. So I'm at a college that has not had a bond since 1974, well before I was born. And one of the things I always look at is we haven't had an opportunity to utilize bond dollars or capital funds project dollars from the state to even show what we can do with funding to improve a facility or improve a site, to even say like, hey, we're a good investment, right, so you should invest in us. And so we'll probably not get that opportunity easily to be able to do that. And so just kind of realizing our community is not going to be up for spending more money. If we're hitting them with a number of other bills already, we can almost anticipate, we put a lot of effort into trying to get them to spend more money on something, and we are going to have to have a really solid plan. But I think whatever we can do to actually present, here's a good investment, that's here's right, something that you are able to see, I think will go a long way in this community. I think a lot of people feel burnt from the school district bond. And I think what we see when we've gone up for a bond at the college as well too is this community votes it down. much stronger than most other communities within our district as well too. So they are not interested nor willing to spend money. But I mean, just like the marijuana prohibition for sales in Sandy, they voted no to not allow that, but 80% of them said, yeah, if we do, tax it like crazy. But they also voted down a gas tax as well too at that same time. So I think when they don't think it's gonna cost them money, they're more than happy to support it. What we've gotten in the last 2 weeks, and I appreciate your point about cart before the horse, we got a consistent 50 to 100 people for 2 nights that wanted to talk about the pool. Because the pool is endangered and potentially not gonna be around. But what we didn't hear about is the other 11,000 people that weren't coming into our city council meeting and weren't coming to talk about the pool and weren't coming to share what their needs or desires or wants are. And so I think we kind of have to look at not reinventing the wheel with a pool, but figuring out what things are going to have the most beneficial impact to our community. I think we have collected a lot of that information already, but to re-engage with that and see what that breaking point is. So for me, to answer that question, I think for me, I'd like to see what different plans look like. I think a decision tree is helpful. I think for me to understand, like, what's the financial impact on doing a district, whether it's a parks district or whether it's a fill-in-the-blank type of district. If we go out and bond out another $11 million, I mean, what does that look like? And
Is
what
that
kind of
all that's
financial impact
available?
is?
Like it's, I mean, is that what we're
Yeah,
offering?
and look at other financial sources.
Yeah.
that we can-
Yeah.
Because I think for me, that helps me make a decision with the back of my mind, and actually not even the back of my mind, the front of my mind being the wastewater treatment facility.
Yeah.
We were not given a choice on that being a priority. It is a priority. So whatever things that would be fun to do are gonna probably be back burner. And we're approving some spending of some funds on a road project that we have money for. And it's always tough when we can go spend money on this thing, but then we're gonna have to increase how much people pay for their utilities. We're gonna increase how much people pay for taxes, but we've got money to do this. And I think most people don't understand that you can't just move money over and now we can afford operations at the pool if we just don't do the remodel on the road. So I think we just have to be cognizant of that piece and really lay out clearly what the opportunities are.
Yeah, I was looking forward to these type of meetings just to start hearing these conversations and let the council sort of, wrestle with these big concepts. But I think it's important to remember too that, this vision of doing something with these 40 acres, is, if I'm reading the council right, it's not that we're going to go out and ask for $70 million to do it overnight, right? This is a big vision that's going to take time, and we're going to bite it off, one piece at a time. But part of what we're doing is building that master plan, roadmap on how to get there. And we already have a list of things that we're going to start, researching and getting information and coming back to you and presenting, all these, decision trees and that roadmap. But I think what we also could help with is laying this out in terms of a schedule and how this looks, when decisions are made, when something might be able to go to the voters, how much money we have and when we can spend it, and then within that, helping you prioritize, okay, we got 11 million or 15 million or whatever, what do you want to spend that on? And if that means, waiting until we have public votes, so we know, and getting a vision for that public vote, whatever that is, that we present and campaign for. And then, maybe option B, if it doesn't happen, is we do this, so the public still gets something out of it. And then there's like interim uses stuff too. It's like how much does that cost to make some minimal improvements so that we can use those fields, we can use the gyms, we can, put other things with the poor lonely sandy net guys, so we can use that asset in the meantime, so we're not just sitting on 40 acres and only maybe some people that fish know how they can walk down the path of the river.
Well, that gives a, so that, some of the things were kind of laid out to us, and maybe some of the things need to be changed in order, right? But one of it was to tear down the upper building because it was deemed unusable in many different ways, efficiencies being one of the main ones. But you had that lower building there, and so, could that top part of that building, that sandy net's in the bottom corner, the rest of the building that is supposed to be kept in that particular plan be used for some other things to save on facility costs at other places in the city as well. Parks or community center stuff or library annex or things that have been there that would then could generate some internal rent back and forth to that complex.
I just kind of imagine this. I think about that property, even some of what they proposed, right? Like you got the outdoor amphitheater back there. You've got some ball fields, some parking opportunities, especially as Pleasant, who knows what happens, everything with Pleasant Street. I mean, you know, you could do an outdoor swimming pool that's overlooking all this cool stuff that's going on underneath it. And then there's just so many ways that this property can go. I feel like, though, that what we tend to be doing is holding on to it and not willing to like look at all these different alternatives, because we own these two now vacant buildings that sit on all of this land, and we're waiting for it to kind of happen for us. If we develop this, I mean, how big of a project is going to be developing an amphitheater out there, developing some ball fields and some upper level parking, and then deconstructing the Cedar Ridge building and figuring out a plan for upgrades to the pool? I mean, that sounds like, I don't know, 25 million?
20 million.
It's in the report.
It's phase one, it's basically phase 1 through 4
Yeah.
on the outdoors. And I mean, I think we get our most bang for our buck
With that.
with all of that. And I think the community impact on a huge amphitheater, community impact on a pump track, improved skate park, parking, I mean, all that, I think is very visible stuff that makes it a lot easier to say, hey, and now we're gonna get back to this other piece. And I think also my big concern too, with where the pool is and our property line issue, is that I anticipate fairly soon, within the next 5 years, that elementary school is gonna need some work.
That's the thing.
And we've got a wacky property line, and if the
Yeah.
pool wasn't where it is, and that was demolished land, flat land, I'm sure we'd probably be wheeling and dealing for an opportunity for that school district to improve that elementary school too.
I feel a little bit trapped. Listening to conversations around the table, I think I was led down that path. I think that's what John was talking a little bit about earlier, was I feel like we thought we had a pretty easy project to put together at the beginning, and then the proposal appeared to be a one and done kind of a proposal. I didn't see alternative 3 and 7 and all that sort of thing. You know, the illumination of having a pool where you could look down on the amphitheater, wonderful idea. I just feel like I don't see how I can afford to do that. We looked at the possibility when we first bought the property of saying, let's tear down the pool and put in a new open-headed one that had all this movable roof and all that sort of thing, which is really great ideas, but it soon became obvious that there wasn't any money in the pot to do that, and we're kind of trapped because it's cheaper to do the rehab than to tear down and start over again with the pool.
I don't believe that.
But that's what I felt like. This is kind of what I feel like.
No, yeah.
The only options we have, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, when I show people houses, we move from the very beginning of, we don't know what we're gonna do. We know we wanna buy a house, but let's go out and take a look. And so we look at 10, 15 different houses, and pretty soon these buyers are thinking, I really like that idea. I really like that. I don't like that idea at all. That's not my idea of what I want to do. I kind of wonder if that's where the council is right now. We know we want a community center. We want it desperately. We probably want a pool. I'm still one of my highest priorities is that pool. But how do you get there? And maybe this is a plan that we've been fed to. It costs us what, 150? What is it? How many thousands? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Isn't the best plan we have. I've been an advocate, I think Jeremy too, about we need to keep that gym. And it was one of those things that they tore down right away, and I thought to myself, $65 million and tearing down the gym that's in pretty good shape, maybe it isn't the smartest thing in the world. But I still think that the council has a lot of possibilities, a lot of imagination, a lot of thoughts, but we don't know how we actually want to get there. And I think we need to go take a look at a few of those possible projects, the way different cities have taken these projects on, and take from city A and city B and city C what we think is going to be working for us, and then put it into place. So do a little bit of investigation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to say, yeah, as far as the gym thing, I think it should be torn down, but until we tear it down, I think we should be able to use it.
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't understand
So,
why we're not using it.
It's
Um,
not ADA.
No bathrooms.
It's not.
It's like,
Yeah,
you gotta
we
go
have
through a
all kinds
dungeon
of-
or
And
something.
And it costs money.
So there's that piece of, still using that, gym. But beyond that, I think there's some other funding, because that's basically an undeveloped park on that lower half,
Mhm.
right? With the SDCs and things that could possibly used, in the city from some of the development that could be added to that, so what you've got is you got different funding pots, like we talked about the road. You can't use the road funding to go for a pool or for a, park or that. It has to be used for the specific list of things that, can be used for. Same thing is with, some of these other pots of money that we have, right? Urban renewal can only be used with inside the urban renewal district, but you also got things that are for future parks or future, adding to that. There's some formulas that are put together that could be used for that part of it, where you have different stages, right? And so as our community is growing and the more housing that's being developed, that those funds start to increase. And so it's prioritizing what needs to be done with those funds, and what the Parks Board has laid out as well for those funds, and what that looks like in that area too. So maybe there's multiple sources of funding for that outside part of the community campus. So.
All right, so let's wrap this up. Some takeaways is, one is obviously the continuation of looking into this district, right? And we'll figure out what our bonding capacity is. The other is, I think there's an appetite for us to go do some field trips. Maybe to reach out to the league or to some of those cities that were mentioned, like Bend and Madras, Redmond, to go and look at for council.
Can
And
I add
then,
an
yeah.
insert? And I think we're also kind of hearing what's the current use opportunities right now. And I think a piece of that is like, I'd love to explore that at the same time too, like I don't want to invest too much more time and energy on that building, because I just don't know that there's a huge amount of life in it, and I think it's very limited on its usability. If we opened up the middle school, or the old middle school, and started using that again, we'd probably have to justify why we're spending money on that and not on the pool. And the pool's sitting there filled with water costing us money, so.
So it's amazing the amount of pool people that come out of the woodwork when you make the news. And so we have had some different pool people in the aquatics pool industry reach out. Some are like, you could knock that thing down, put together the most beautiful outdoor pool in the world for $3 million. Like, I don't
Let's
know.
see the plan, man.
Right. So that's what I was gonna ask is, maybe we should have some of these folks reach, put them in touch with staff, because we have this OPSIS plan for this outdoor parks deal. Also, we tie that in with some kind of plan for the pool. We start getting closer to our goal here. We just gotta start moving towards this 2020 ballot, right? So.
Yep.
All right, so homework assignments, figure out district bond, use of the current areas, and then I'm gonna start throwing some of these people your guys' way. It'd be nice, even like US Aquatic, US Swim, right? They can do their free assessment. Let's start trying to develop a plan for how a pool aquatic center can be part of the overall scheme of things, so.
Yeah, and it sounds like a few of the councilors had comments about this existing plan and sort of the master plan itself, and maybe wanting different takes on that. I don't know how much money we want to keep investing in more plans and drawings and stuff, but if that's part of the issue, if that we're looking for more of a $25 million thing, or something that is a little more geared towards things that we can do immediately that make a bigger impact on the community, than rather than just, hey, we spent $10 million and it looks the same as it did before.
And can attract private industry to come in and get us the rest of the way, right?
And Jordan, we asked for that too. When we originally proposed the
Multiple
OPSIS
options.
report, we asked for a lower cost option when we realized that we did not have enough funds. So we were actually looking at that $30 million range, because we felt like that was more achievable than $70 million. So that's kind of when OPSIS was coming back in the picture. That's where I'm speaking for myself, but we were kind of expecting this like middle path.
Yep.
So you championed the question, and we were looking for we were all shell shocked by it, and like, hey, let's.
Another thing to look at is that 7.5% of the lottery fund goes to Parks and Recreation. They give out fairly
Right.
sizable grants.
Right.
We've already
Yeah.
got plans for the outdoors. We could probably submit the grant fairly soon.
Clackamas County Tourism. I mean, I think we've got to get resourceful.
Yeah.
So grants won't come to you. You have to go to them.
Maybe before we, this is getting real close to the end, but I'm thinking maybe we've got a strategy plan here we got to put together some. I'm thinking about getting out to the public and telling people what we're thinking about, getting them on our side, besides just finding better items. that we report.
Other homework we have too is the communication plan and all this. As soon as the vision sort of starts to take a little bit more, I don't know, something a little more solid than we have the communication plan.
Thank you, guys. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Pizzle?
Here.
Counselor Smallwood? Is absent, excused.
Excused, absent.
Counselor Hamlin?
Present.
Counselor Lee?
Here?
Counselor Estes?
Here.
Counselor Schultz? Here. Mayor Fleming?
Here. Well, welcome everybody. I see we've got some fifth graders that took my invitation to show up to a city hall, city council meeting. Welcome. I look forward to hearing from you. So we're going to be, our agenda for tonight is we're going to be we'll start off with public comment. That will be the audience's opportunity to for public comment. You'll have up to 3 minutes each. When you're called up, please state your first and last name and your address, and then you'll be able to address the council. After that, we'll be going through our consent agenda for the evening. Then we'll be going through new business, which is an Arbor Week proclamation and a planning commission appointment. Welcome, sir. It's good to see you again. And then we'll be ending the meeting with our council reports and city manager report. So with that, is there any changes to tonight's agenda? All right. Seeing none, it is time for public comment. So do we have I'll just call up, let people go up in any order they would like. 3 minutes, first name, last name, and address for the record, please.
You can come all at once if you want.
Yeah, all at once if you'd like to as well.
Be brave.
Welcome. It's good to see you again. Hi.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Burdick, and this is Rayleigh Becker, Matthew Hibbs,
Sean Williams.
Grafton Muir. And we are here today, we are doing our exhibition is plastic pollution, and we are fifth graders at Oregon Trail Academy. We came here today to address the issue of plastic pollution in our oceans and rivers.
So there is a new rule in Salem that there's no plastic bags, and every time you get like a paper bag, you have to pay 10 cents. So the goal that they're trying to achieve is for you to buy like fabric bags, so there's no more plastic in the ocean.
So for our exhibition project, we have to have at least like 2 or 3 solutions. And so one of our solutions is we're going to write letters to our senators and our president to inform them what the problem is and what they can do about it and what we're doing about it, so they know that it's not just important to political people, it's important to children too. And also we're going to be doing a like a trash audit at our school, and so we're going to have different trash cans for like plastic, paper, and then just food waste, and so we can see how much plastic we use in the everyday.
Our goal to have a similar law like Salem has, so that we can keep plastic from coming from Sandy and into the ocean. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Well, one, I just like to say again, thank you for coming and addressing council. Like we talked about, the neatest part about local government is you can stand up here and be heard by the folks that are making the decisions here locally, and we really appreciate you coming and doing that today. That takes some real courage. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
one short comment. I heard you were going to make a letter to the president and some of your Senate and representatives. If you don't mind, give us a copy here for our council.
Yeah.
We would love to hear your ideas, and if they're something we can put together, I'm sure we will consider it. So please carbon copy us.
All right. Any other public comment tonight? I'll close down the public comment portion. I will let you know all these meetings are are streamed out on the internet too. Just go to our city council meeting, moms and dads, if you want to look, or send the link around and stuff to everybody. My daughter got up and spoke, and Grandma was really upset that I didn't capture that on video right away. So I know how that can be. All right, moving on.
Now's the safe time
Yeah,
to
this
leave.
is a safe time
If
to
you wanna
leave.
escape,
Or stay up late and watch us.
where you can say that you're leaving and take extra time getting home.
Well, be careful.
Yeah, ice cream, Dairy Queen.
Good night. Oh, boy.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'm open for discussion on the consent agenda, or I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Lee, second by Counselor Exner on the consent agenda. All those in favor of passage signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business, Arbor Week proclamation. Jordan.
This is a proclamation for you, Mayor, to read, Councilor President Manager.
Do you feel up to it?
You know, this is my first proclamation. My eyes are a little less dilated now.
There you go.
You know, let me see here.
And my glasses? You can have them.
Yeah. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and world, and whereas the state of Oregon recognizes the first full week of April as Arbor Week, and whereas the trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Sandy is now recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to expand its tree planting stewardship practices. Now, therefore, I, Stan Pulliam, Mayor of the City of Sandy, do hereby proclaim April 7th through the 13th, 2019 as Arbor Week. Yay! In the city of Sandy, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Week and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated first date of April 2019. So we will be having our Arbor Week celebration, 14th annual. I think, Jeremy, you know where this is, over at Timberline Park by our homes. We'll have refreshments. It'll be from 10 a.m. till 11 a.m. in Timberline Park. 39600 Wall Street on April 6th. So one of my more humorous moments since becoming mayor is that's the park our kids grew up in, and my daughter Lucy called and left me a voicemail just all upset that some trees, her favorite tree had been cut down, and their favorite climbing tree, and so, you know, I mean, people needed the answer for this. And so I you know, we made some calls, and of course they had been rotten, you know, and so we had to replace them. So it'll be neat, we'll go out there, we'll be out there with our family. Surgery, you know, who knows, maybe, hopefully we'll be out there. And planting trees on Arbor Day, so everybody's invited. April 6th from 10 a.m. till 11. Okay. I don't need to pass that. That's just a proclamation. That's within my powers of mayor, huh?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Man.
Nice. Nice. All right. Planning Commission appointment. So I don't know if there's much of a staff report on this. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I'll have you, Chris. This is Christopher Mayton. Did I say that right? Yeah. Yep. Perfect. So, as you know, we put together a committee to meet with our planning commissioners, people who'd be interested in that appointment. And Carl and myself and Jeremy participate on the committee with our planning commission chair. And yeah, it selected Christopher Mayton to fill the rest of the seat. We need to vote on this as a council. We were really impressed with his leadership. He's a kind of a department level individual with our state and our state liquor control commission, and brought some great insight. Been part of our community for a lot of years now. As I mentioned during our work session, I think Chris has been told, I think there's about 6 months left on this appointment, and so we'll be looking to, has nothing to do with Chris, we love Chris, but as these commission spots come up, we're going to be putting them out to the community and trying to get fresh blood and see who's interested in it, and going through an interview process and stuff. But this is where our committee landed. Chris, if you want to say some words, or if there's any questions for Chris, please feel free. Yeah. You want just a welcome? You want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, thank you. My name is Chris Mayton. My address is 36729 Katrina Street here in Sandy. I've been a resident since 2005. I was telling the committee before when I was interviewing, I've been in the private sector for the last 28 years. My last senior role was Executive Vice President with Corwin Beverage out of Washington, and then before that with Pep Boys, and then before that with Bridgestone. And I've just been on the road a lot, traveling the country. In the last couple of years, I took a job with the OLCC as Director of Distribution and Purchasing for the state. And I found myself with a lot more time on my hands. So I have 4 daughters, and I've raised them here in Sandy. I've got 2 still in school here in Sandy. And I've been looking around my backyard saying, how can I make a difference here? My wife said, you need to do something in the city. And I saw this position come up. So I'm grateful for being here. I hope I can offer maybe an alternative perspective to the council. I saw there's a lot of tenure on that council, and a lot of things in Sandy that I love and appreciate, and some things I'd like to change too. So I hope I can add a good solid voice to that, to the community. And I'm looking forward to serving for 7 months and hopefully beyond that.
All right.
Any questions you have for me?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I have a comment about one of the things about being on Planning Commission is it's a spectacular opportunity to learn about our city. You know, Councilor Pietzel and I both have spent some time on there during a real busy time, and I see our city about to jump into that sort of occurrence as well. We're at a place now where there's a lot of going on with our developments, and I think there's some code issues and upgrades that are really crucial for our city. This is a great time to be able to be part of that. So I would encourage you to just jump in there and go full tilt and be part of that. It's a great place to understand the city.
Thank you, Councilor. I picked up my book last week, and I've been looking at a 400-page document.
Oh my!
And I think my first meeting is next Monday, so I'm looking forward to it as long as I get the appointment tonight.
That's great.
Well, can I make it official?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation to appoint Christopher Mayton to the Planning Commission for position 6 with a term ending December 31st, 2019.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion by Counselor Hamlin, a second by Counselor Peatsold. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, I think.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along here, report from the city manager.
So you saw my weekend update?
No, actually, I've not seen it.
Oh, that one on Friday?
But it's serving as a dual purpose. So first off, as you walked into the building, you saw some work being done in City Hall here. So work is underway on our repairs and window replacement, taking care of some leaks, which has been necessary and needed for some time. So this is based on the analysis that we had on the condition of City Hall, but of course, the more you open up a building, the more you find. Fortunately, they haven't found any dry rot. They did find that the rock face, the facade, needs a little work. Apparently the adhesive or the glue that the rock sticks to the building wasn't installed correctly probably about 20-30 years ago. So we're looking at options for replacing that while we're at it. And I know questions in the past have come up about how much do we want to put into this building, given that, you know, at some point down the line we're going to have a new city hall, perhaps, or repurpose this building. And I think my answer is still the same as it was before, that, you know, this building has some life left in it, and you know, doesn't just house City Hall and administration functions and planning and building, but we also have Sandy Net here. So we do want to take care of this building, and especially leaks, as much as possible, because we have a lot of expensive infrastructure and people's internet depends on this building being functional. So you know, these are kind of the essential repairs that we're doing. You also see some paint colors on the building. We're still deciding on the route to go. If you have any input on any of those colors you see, let us know. But you know, it gets to a point where we have sort of decision paralysis going on.
Just read your brand guidelines.
Well, we need to use historic colors, of course, improve color palette in the city. A couple other things to highlight here. The State of the City was last week, and I tried my best to step in and give it a shot on behalf of the mayor. And of course, I said I wasn't going to be as charismatic or.
We'll wait till the Sandy post comes out. We'll see. We'll see.
But I did my best to represent the council goals, and I focused on the goals that the council's focusing on for 2019. And Chief Schneider from the fire district was there as well to give a report on the fire district activity over the last year. I think there was about 20-30 people. 32, right on. Yeah, nice little event there at the Mountain Hood Athletic Club. We missed the mayor. I sent a poll out for wastewater treatment plant tours. You know, this isn't a required meeting or anything like that, but there was interest on council to see some of these treatment facilities that we're considering in our system facilities plan. So, and that includes some more natural or green treatment like wetlands that we would go and look at the Fern Hill operation, I think, or Dundee, one of the two. So one day would be pretty much a full day going over to the west side, over at Dundee and Forest Grove. And then the other tour the following week in those May weeks would be for the Tri-City plant, which is a lot closer, and we can do that probably in just a couple hours. That's easier to schedule. So when you get a chance, check your availability.
You did a doodle poll.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. And so far the operations are going well with the new operator, Veolia, at our wastewater treatment plant. Mike and I met with the team there last week to get a report. As expected, there's definitely some issues that needs to be resolved in terms of just the equipment and maintenance of the plant, but they're working on it, and happy to be here helping us out. Couple other emails that have come across I wanted to just again repeat. The Longest Day Parkway, and the reason I bring this up, this has to do with schedule, and the council meeting schedule coming up. In June, typically in the last couple of years, and correct me if I'm wrong, this has taken the place of a council meeting. I've been lobbying, or I lobbied staff, if we perhaps can not do that this year, and welcome to push back. The reason being is the way that the month, the dates kind of stack up. I would really love to have that second meeting in June reserved for budget, so we can have the budget adoption and budget adjustments as late as possible in the fiscal year, as opposed to right at the beginning of the month. What that means is we would have the longest day parkway closer to the longest day on the 20th of June, and also have a council meeting that same week, I think on the 16th or 17th, somewhere in there. So I think Tanya had sent an email about that longest day event and what kind of happens on that day. And then finally, a couple administrative stuff. The budget committee application opening closes on April 5th. That's this Friday. And I think we're still looking for applications. I haven't gotten
I think there's one more spot available.
one more spot available. So
We get another one, great. We don't know.
yeah.
Are we required by law to have a certain number, or is it just something we've set up?
Gotta give it an effort, and whoever applies, if, you know, if there's not more applications than seats, then the folks that apply will be seated.
They're required by law to have citizens' input?
Yes.
No,
Yep.
no number,
Yeah.
okay.
Is it not to exceed?
And then we did receive a Parks Board application, and again, this is one of those things that's on the table for someday, talking about council rules and how we process applications and the application process, but Carrie has reached out to councilors about having another interview as part of that.
Can I ask a
and-
question?
Yeah, please.
So I know we were going to do interviews for commissions, so that'd be the Planning Commission and Arts Commission. But are we going to interview every board member for library and parks and everything else? Because that is a lot of work. I mean, typically those haven't been, so I don't know what the.
Well, that's, I mean, it's a big reason why we got to figure out our council rules and policies on that, because, I mean, one is, so the charter kind of indicates that it's a that's a mayor appointment with consensus from the council, and we've done that with some ad hoc committees and some different things. I'm not sure what it spells out for these advisory boards under the current practice of, do you know what our current?
Staff member in charge, there's basically the rules allow the appointments to go
For those
to
other-
the staff level on those advisory boards. I'm operating from the assumption that you do want to see each application or each applicant until we have the council rules brought forward. Now, you can give me different directions, saying, no, just do it as we did in the past, you know, and just bring the commission as a committee through the process. But, you know, as part of the council rules, I want to lay out a different process, honestly, of how we advertise and accept applications and close it, so that we aren't having to come to you every other week and say, hey, we got another application, do you want to do an interview?
But it also goes to, are we going to be a citizen-led community, or are we going to be a, you know, staff-driven community as well, right? And so everything from the facade improvement boards and committees to parks, I mean, how much of this do we want to have as elected leaders in this community a say over the fulfillment of those versus, you know, putting that onus on our staff?
Yeah, I love the conversation because I mean, I don't know if we need to have it tonight, but I'd love to have the conversation from past experiences and this type of thing. So
Yeah. I think that's the whole concept is that we need to talk those things through, but at this point, it would be, I guess, correct, if that's the right word, to do the way we've done it before and the way the current rules call for. So I'm thinking that we've always done it where the staff went through the process and presented it for these committees, not the commissions, but the committees. And I guess I would love to have that conversation, but at this point, we're just talking about doing what we are required to do now, right? And I don't think it's ever been led by a council.
So I can just say how it's been since I've been on council for those was the groups, like the parks or Sandy Ned or whatever, would meet with individuals, one to see if they'd like to be on the board or not, and if it was then wanting to forward that on to the council as the board itself, the staff member would bring that as the board would bring forward. But I think that's a discussion we can have. I just was
So what
curious.
are you going under right now? Because you just mentioned that from feedback you've received, you're having people come before us and a committee comprising us to do the selection and the appointment until we get the rules in place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's for all. So I think if that's not the direction we're wanting them to go, we need to clearly state the new direction that we're asking them to go.
Dan?
Yes, I know that we're looking at doing that for the new park board person. To me, that kind of makes sense until we have a discussion that the staff person and the committee maybe meet that person, then a small group of us meet with that person and make a recommendation to the council. I think that's the same thing you're talking about.
Yeah, I
In
mean,
the same way that you guys dealt with the planning commission
Yeah.
member.
yeah. A couple things, I mean, we're trying to create in a way, we're trying to create a competitive process, right? But we're actually not getting applicants to do that,
Right.
which is a little interesting, because you're doing an interview, but you're really doing an interview to meet the applicant. And it's not like, okay, which one's better? You have one. And the process has kind of been set up in the past with the staff member in charge and the committee being in charge, just because we haven't been able to get the interest, and a lot of our boards don't operate with a full
Mhm.
membership. We just haven't been able to get the volunteers to serve on those boards. I got the impression through the retreat and subsequent meetings that there was an interest from council, given that these are advisory boards to the city council. Yes, they also advise staff and help inform staff, but they're advisory boards to council, that there was interest from the council, at least this council, to meet the folks before they're on the board and have a role in that process in terms of vetting them and, looking at the credentials and things and then approving it as a body. That's not the way the council rules are currently written, but sort of I'm operating off of the direction
I'd like to continue it that way personally, but
Which way is that?
I'd like council to have some leadership in how some of these spots are filled.
Especially budget committee.
Yeah, I guess even if it's only one person, I guess I would like to see us at least look, because there is the possibility that we might say, no, this person
Yeah,
doesn't, and then we need to keep on looking.
yeah.
And there is an interest by, it feels like all of us, certainly myself, to be more involved in those positions. And I think some of the things that may bubble up out of those committees too, that I think we'd be interested in knowing more about.
I think we got to remember too these are pretty small committees. It doesn't take much for one personality to just screw up an entire committee. And, so we've got to be a little bit careful with that as well. Some of these committees, these terms take up multiple years. And you kind of can get yourself into some odd situations. So I'd rather be more proactive on the front end on the appointment of some of these than behind it, so. You good?
So keep not following the rules, and then we'll in some way have that
I
conversation.
think we have some volunteers for the interview for the
Pardon?
Parks Board applicant.
Good.
And I think there was a quorum issue, so I think it was like the first 3 that responded will be on the
Yeah,
committee.
just
So.
send out an email to you.
That's fine. Who's on it?
Lori,
Yeah,
Jan, and Carl.
I think that's outstanding. Great.
Thank you.
And Bethany is back up if something happens.
All right, sounds good.
That's it.
That it?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Counselor Schultz, we'll start with you for committee and counselor reports.
I don't have any committee reports. I have a library board meeting coming up this Wednesday. I did attend the State of the City address on Wednesday. We missed Mayor Polium, but I thought Jordan did a really great job at stepping in last minute and pulling that together. It was very well done. I also got to attend my first cities dinner out in Lake Oswego. And that was really a good experience for me to meet a lot of people that I haven't met before and experience that. So I enjoyed it a lot and hope to do that again.
Counselor?
Okay, I do have one committee report. The Art Commission met for the last time for the summer, so they're going to be off for the summer. But they had a couple of projects that they're voted on, continuing on. One was to make sure that all the inventory was done for the current art projects and, well, not projects, but artifacts, if that's what you want to call them, in the city. And then what would be needed to repair them and put them in different places of condition, knowing that some of them are in need of that. And some of that was about to do with the 2 murals that are here in the city offices, which at least the exterior one has some issues that need to be worked on. There's some moss and so on that need to be worked on. And they have another project that they are going to try to put together, and they're planning on that, and so hopefully that'll happen, but we'll see how that goes for them. I also have a forestry code meeting coming up. I believe it's in April, mid-April, something like that. Moving forward with that is really important, and there's some energy to make that code get better as we go along and get it done by the end of the summer, if I understand. I think September is our deadline. And last but not least, Sweet and Wine is up here on Saturday afternoon. I don't know if I'm getting on anybody else's agenda, but very much encourage people to go down to Buddha Cat, where they're going to be doing that work. And Saturday afternoon, after you finish your Arbor Day festivities of planting trees, go over there and have a couple glasses of wine. I intend to be there with my sweet. Is that the right way to do that? My sweet is going to be down to get some sweet with the wine.
It's actually at the community center.
Oh, it's right, community center. You're right. I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you for keeping that straight. And that's it for me.
Okay. I went to the transit committee, which I'm on about 2 weeks ago, and I was excited to hear that we're going to have another shopper trolley coming, a blue one this time. So that everybody on the committee was excited about that. I did go to the state of the city luncheon, and you did a marvelous job. I thought you looked like you had planned it, and it came off just the way you planned it.
Don't get too good at these.
I also went to the Lake Oswego dinner and learned about housing, and I was particularly interested in the money that the county has that's outside of the Metro program. They're having a meeting on May the 7th on housing, and I signed up to go to that workshop so that I can find out how that rural money might be spent. The other thing is, I can't read my own writing. Oh, I had my first school board budget meeting, and I was kind of astounded at how different that process is from any of the other budget committees I've been on. Very intensive. So I'm hoping that I can learn about some more ways that we might be able to work together as a result of that. Had a chance to talk with Senator Hass today, who's in co-chair of the Revenue Committee, who'll be dealing with the school funds, and to send the message from our budget committee that we want to fund basic services before new programs, before they get carried away and spend the $2 billion on new things and not the things that we really need.
It's funny how that works.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Thank you. Do I go here? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where hand.
Easy one. Oregon Trail School Board meeting next Monday. I'll be at that, and then I will not be in attendance on the meeting on the 15th. I will be out of town.
On tax day?
On tax day. Yep.
All right. Didn't have any meetings, but we are scheduled. The three of us need to get together for the Economic Development Committee. Did go to the city dinner in Lake Oswego and saw a lot of great people there from Lake Oswego. Scott Lazenby giving his last City of the Dinner presentation and did an amazing job there as he was presenting his city, but also about the city dinners and what that's meant for him over the course of 20-some years that he's been in Clackamas County, mainly here in Sandy, obviously. Talking about housing, and some of the things that came to mind was, a lot will be spent in the metro region because they passed that funding mechanism there with some outside of the metro in the county aspect of it. But made me think back to the time when we were talking about some of the housing needs here and making sure that we had inventory that was available. The supply and demand aspect of things, and how there's just a shortage of supply in the Portland metro region as well as we see in Sandy as well. So I think, we're doing our fair share. It's just the cost of that supply is more than some can afford. I got yesterday or this morning asked to speak in Idaho about SandyNet in the city of Sandy over in McCall. They're having a big conference there coming up in May 17th. And so I haven't responded yet whether I will be able to attend, but I think I will be able to make that. As you well know, we're well known across the entire United States there and get asked many places to come and speak. So, but this one's in the Northwest, so it's a little easy to get to. So, but that's all I have.
Great. Well, I thank you for going to those and traveling to do that. As we've seen when we talk about everything from wastewater to transportation projects at the federal level, they're always like, "Oh, Sandy, you're the little engine that could," with the SandyNet, and of course they talk about SAM and our transit system and stuff in addition to that. So that overall brand in our story helps us more than just, SandyNet's awesome, but it helps us, more than just with SandyNet. Well, short mayor's report. I haven't prepped too much. One is just, obviously I took a personal fall this last Wednesday morning, some scary times in our house. So still don't quite know my path forward on surgeries and all that kind of stuff, but we'll figure all that out. Everyone's reached out to me and said some nice things, so I really appreciate those conversations from both counselors and staff. It means more than you know. So I was excited this week. I was going to have some big announcement with the Sandy Mountain Festival, and so we're going to post that. I got to figure out when I'm going to do this darn surgery, but we're going to have a big announcement with the festival that I think our community is going to be really excited about. As for C4, we've talked a couple times about how the vehicle registration fee passed Clackamas County. That means a couple of, and there's not going to be a repeal of that, so it means a couple of things for us. One is Jordan, let's get our guys to work. Let's start scoping out that Bell Street 362nd expansion and talking about all the kinds of things that can mean for our community as that expansion takes place. Also, there's a third of those funds that are being put to the side for Clackamas County projects, road projects in conjunction with our local municipalities. So we need to start putting our brains together and prioritizing. When Jan and I go to these C4 meetings, we got some dollars we're going to be talking about now and where those money's going to go. And so we need to strategically think about our asks. We're Sandy, so we're not that big and bad yet, but I think old Jan and I, we got some strategy to us. So we're going to figure out how to get some of those dollars. So let's figure out just what our ask needs to be and let us go to work to go get those. And then with the housing, just on top of that, there's been some conversations both at the last C4 as well as the county chair and city manager mayor meeting that there is going to be some funds in addition to that metro bond for some of us rural areas. Some of the conversations I've had with Chair Bernard and I've had with Councilor Lee is there could be some workforce housing money and stuff that could be available, and with a lot of our 80% of our community has to leave for work, but also some different agriculture in different communities out here. There's some good projects. So start kind of thinking about housing and some rural dollars and where your priorities are as each individual counselor and what you'd like us to advocate for, because we're going to be really aggressive. Everything from what Councilor Hamlin talked about, some of these tourism dollars, both state and county, and transportation dollars. I mean, we're going to start going for our share here. So let's get strategic about it. With that, you said sweet and wine. That will be great next Saturday. There's some upcoming chamber stuff. I've not been at the ability to grab all those. So with that, thanks everybody. I think that will be the meeting.
So if John's gone the 15th, I think I may have to